Okay, hello everybody. So today we got another review for you guys. So we're going to be talking about the Netflix sort of summer blockbuster action movie Extraction.
Oh yeah.
And so this is like sort of their foray into like making the big blockbuster kind of films. So this was produced by the Russo brothers and was written by Joe Russo. And so this movie stars Chris Hemsworth, so they're like using their Marvel connections to get their guy to be in the film. They're kind of like doing some interesting stuff while moving on from the Marvel stuff. They produced this film. They produced this other film, 21 Bridges.
Yes, the one with Chadwick Boseman, right?
With Chadwick, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're actually going to do another film for Netflix. This is going to be their biggest budget ever, which is going to have Chris Hemsworth. Yeah, Chris Hemsworth and Ryan Gosling will be in it. Yeah.
Netflix's biggest budget ever, right?
Yeah.
Not the Russo brothers.
Well, we don't know how much Infinity War Endgame cost. They won't tell us.
Wow, it's got to be a lot. It's got to be a lot.
Yeah, it's got to be a lot.
It's got to be a little bit.
So that's what they're up to now. And so this was, I guess, sort of like an experiment to see if, how popular these films were going to be. And so this film did pretty well. I think it was in their top 10 originals in terms of all time, in terms of like the number of people who like watched. I think it was somewhere around 70 to 90 million people had watched this film.
Okay.
So
now, real quick, before we get too deep into it, you were saying this is positioned to be like their blockbuster movie or whatever. I feel like they've had 3 of those already this summer. And every other summer, like they always have a movie like this. Like we were just talking about 6 Underground off screen.
Yeah.
Stream started. So I'm wondering, like, is there something different about this one as opposed to all, like, the old guard just came out and then they had Project Power, which any one of these movies could have been put in theaters and it could have done okay.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm just wondering, like, what is their plan? Like, why? Like, they're just making all of these expensive ass movies for people to watch at home. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's a really kind of deep question, because that goes into like, what is the Netflix business model? And their model is almost like this debt financing, kind of perpetually spend tons of money, but they're able to like still be profitable because they have such a large subscriber base. Basically creating stuff like Extraction allows them to continually keep tons of subscribers, because if they're producing all this kind of content constantly, like every month there's a big thing, there's a TV show, there's Extraction, there's the old guard, there's this, there's that.
Triple Frontier was a movie. I mean, there's a lot, just off the top of my head, they've been making these, and it's kind of wild to me.
Yeah, and so that's just their plan to like compete with Disney and Warner Brothers and these other, like, they have to continually produce more content.
Yeah.
And so they I think the difference for these is the level of talent that they're getting is a little bit higher. Getting the Russo brothers after Endgame, and saying produced by the Russo brothers and getting Chris Hemsworth, that's a big get, right? And they the rest of the cast is kind of filled with
he's the only star in the movie until you get to a certain point where there's like a little cameo for the Netflix kids.
Yeah. I think that's what it's like. Now they're getting Charlize Theron. They're getting,
he produced that movie too.
Yeah, and they're getting, like you said, with 6 Underground, they're getting Michael Bay.
Ryan Reynolds. I mean, shit. Ryan Reynolds post Deadpool on your platform. That's pretty big. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have another movie it's supposed to come out this year. I don't know if it will. I don't believe it, to be honest. Because they said they're still filming it. It's like called Red Notice, and it's The Rock.
Yes.
Wonder Woman. And I think there's someone else big in it too. There's like a third name. So yeah, but these films are like even bigger, right? Like these are like in the 250, 200 million.
Yeah.
Like, and this was like 100 million. I mean, that's a lot.
Red Notice, Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Ryan Reynolds making that Netflix money.
Yeah, big time. Netflix pays. So both of them were in the top 10. They just released the top 10 highest paid actors 2020. The Rock and Ryan Reynolds were like number 1 and number 2. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that they made that movie, and Netflix just paid them both like $20 million to make that movie. Yeah.
Okay.
So like half the salary they made for the year was just doing that one Netflix movie.
That's insane.
So yeah, Netflix, they're paying, and they have to pay because like the other thing too is like, you know, if you're Robert Downey Jr., right, and you're in all of these movies with Marvel, he got like 8% of the box office gross for Endgame.
Yeah.
He got like 8%. That's great. That's an insane amount of money.
His agents, man, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, but you can't do that with Netflix because they have no
box no formal. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there is an equivalent, but that has to do with, you know, like if 90 million people see your movie, like
it's all weird, right? It's all some kind of like equation on the back end. Yeah.
Yeah. And Netflix knows that equation, but the talent doesn't.
Correct.
So they kind of have to pay people more because like, well, I'm not going to get any back end. Like, you know, The Rock probably gets back end on most of his films.
Yeah.
But with, you know, with these films, they just got to pay them more up front. So So this is an interesting part of Netflix sort of expanding even bigger, making even bigger stuff.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to me that they're doing like, you know, 3 of these per like summer period. Like I can't wait to see if Red Notice comes out. Like I can't wait to see what their fall looks like because last year we had The Irishman and we had, I don't even remember what else, but like it was, again, they're putting out probably like 5 of these multi-$100 million movies a year. Like it's fucking crazy. Yeah,
it is crazy. And like I said, they're getting bigger. Like Red Notice is going to be even bigger than Olgar or Extraction.
Yeah. Yeah, they're grooming us.
I mean, you know, again, their idea is like, and this is like the perfect time for all the stuff to be coming out for them, right? Like people can't really go to theaters. And this stuff like Extraction is like, or The Old Guard is like the biggest stuff out, really.
For sure. Like, you know, they had that meeting with the execs and they were like, well, you know, the COVID thing, that's really sad. Our employees did this and that. But we have these blockbusters in the can and they're going to come out this summer. Yeah, because these are done and they're going to come out this summer when everyone's at home. Oh, baby, you know?
Yeah, and like, you know, a lot of them feel like they're in sort of the same, they're not amazing, right? I don't think they're meeting up to...
No, I don't think they're amazing at all. But that's a different thing. That's completely separate, yeah.
But it doesn't matter because like, as long as you have this huge subscriber base and people, it's not like people, like your average viewer isn't like, oh man, I just want the best cinema or whatever.
Right, no, that's exactly,
They just want something that entertains them. They want to like, oh, Chris Hemsworth, click. 2 hours of their life is gone.
Yeah.
After work, you know, that's all they want.
Popcorn to the microwave. Fuck it.
Yeah. So this is like the perfect kind of films for that. These types of films. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Extraction now. So this, like we said, Russo brothers produced. Joe Russo wrote the script. They got Chris Hemsworth starring. And the rest of the cast is full of like some interesting Indian actors, actually. So the film kind of begins like sort of like we're in the middle of the action. Yeah. And so we see Chris Hemsworth, his character Tyler, he's like fighting on a bridge and he looks like he's taking a lot of fire and he's kind of struggling to survive.
Yeah.
And then it kind of flashes back to this Indian kid, Ovi, who lives in Mumbai, and he's like, you can tell he's from a wealthy family. He goes to like a private school. He drives in like these, they drive BMWs or whatever to drive him to and from school.
Yeah.
So he's like really well off, and he's like hanging out with his friends, and you know they're doing typical teenage boy stuff, hitting on girls.
Except when this kid gets home. There's kind of no one there for him. His dad, he has no parents there. He has a maid. He has like some weird caretaker guy that you see for a hot second, but he's just alone. He's bored. He has nothing to do. He feels like he's uncared for. You get that sense that he feels like he's uncared for. And so he gets a text from his buddies, which I thought was kind of weird because again, all these kids look like they're 12 years old. And then they end up like the next scene is they're all in a club together.
Yeah, they're at the club.
With the same like girls that were in the school that we were just in, so it's like I guess that's how they do it in India.
Yeah, I guess. I guess if you're a rich kid, you just hand someone like a $50 bill and you just walk in.
Yeah, you're just in the club. Yeah,
and like another point, like sort of stressing the fact that he's so alone. This kid Ovi, like he's playing piano by himself in this like massive room with this giant piano, and it's like you can tell there's a void in his life. a lot's missing. Like no one's really there for him. He's just on his own. So yeah, he goes to this club and they're like smoking weed outside, and the cops show up.
Yeah, they're like 12 years old.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure. I mean, I didn't smoke weed at that age, but I'm sure there are people.
Of course, yeah, no.
That's more believable than going to the freaking club. I would say.
Yeah, probably.
And yeah, this corrupt cop, like, I believe there was also so what we're gonna find is the central conflict of the film is there's these people from Mumbai who are drug dealers, and then there are these people from Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the conflict is between Bangladesh and like Mumbai, India. Mm-hmm. And I think the guy who the cop had like a Bengali accent, I think is one of the things it said. And so then that's probably like why that connection happened, where he was like looking for this Ovi in particular. Mm-hmm. And so he kidnaps Ovi and delivers him to the Bangladeshi drug lord.
Correct. Yeah.
As a ransom. But later on we find they it's not about the money.
No, it's about just flexing on each other, basically.
Mm-hmm. Flex. I'm gonna flex on you.
Yeah.
So Ovi he's fucked.
Yeah. Well, you get the sense, right? Like his dad is missing, is absent, whatever. Mm-hmm. Not too much of a logical leap until you figure out that his dad is some kind of like insane, crazy, big, either a businessman or a drug lord. One of the two. Turns out he's a drug lord, I think, because there's a scene with him. So basically, his dad is in prison, and so now they have to figure out what to do about this ransom. And a caretaker guy, the weird little caretaker guy that we saw
Saju.
at the beginning of the film. Is that his name? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, Saju. Yeah.
Yeah, so he goes to meet with the father, and he's like, well, okay, so this is what happened. And then his dad is like, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you spend. Mm-hmm. You got to get this kid back because, again, the flexing battle between the two drug lords.
Yeah, because like he's like, they're not going to give him back. They're just going to flex on me and then kill him. Mm-hmm. So you got to get him. And he basically says, you have to get him. You do. And if you don't, I will threaten your son. So... yeah, for him, like Saju, he's in it because he has to protect his son, his kids, and his family. Yeah, and so he basically, he's got to freaking fly to Bangladesh and do this to help do this extraction. Mm-hmm. But then this other person, I forget what her name was, but she hires Tyler, and they get the job to help get Ovi out. Mm-hmm. And so there's this whole ordeal. Basically, they're going to get paid a bunch of money from Ovi Senior. Yeah. And yeah, so it's Ovi Senior and Ovi Junior. Ovi Senior is the drug dad. Kingpin. Yeah, and the dad. And there's some interesting scenes where we see Tyler, like he, basically they kind of try to establish that he's very reckless with his life, and he doesn't really care about living anymore.
Yeah. He's straight down the barrel, just an archetype. He's the ex-military, ex-special ops, your brain fills in the blank, a rough and tough guy down on his luck. He has this like past that's haunting him. In every scene he's got to be drinking something or popping some kind of pill. He's just really like, I'm gonna live or die, I don't care kind of a thing. Played well, but it's absolutely just it's just necessary for his character. Yeah. I mean, totally. We've seen this before. Like, what was the guy from like Riggs or whatever from? Oh man, what was that? What was that Lethal Weapon? Oh sure, yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. The Mel Gibson character. Yeah.
Where like the first time we see him, he's about to jump off a roof. And I think they do jump together, actually.
They do. Well, and he's playing Russian roulette and stuff. So I think it's the same kind of character.
Yeah. And so in this one, like we see him there on vacation. He's with his friends, and they're at this really beautiful part of Australia where there's this kind of, I guess you could say, like a cave or something with like a reservoir of water. Yeah. And he just takes a 30-meter dive and doesn't even think about it. Yeah. And we keep seeing these flashbacks to his family or like a child and a wife.
Something, yeah. It's something that we've seen in at least like 3 of the movies that we've reviewed so far, where the protagonist flashes back to someone or something that he cares about to give them motivation, to move on.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's basically what we know about this guy. We know that at some point we're going to get to this point where he's dying, but now we get the sense that he doesn't really care about his life.
Mm-hmm.
And so then this woman comes to him and she's like, "Okay, I got this job for you. Will you take it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll take it, sure." But it's kind of in the sense like he's like, "Oh, maybe this will kill me."
Yeah.
You know. So that's his motivation, is just like, okay, I'm maybe one of these days, like you said, the Russian roulette, I'll finally pull the trigger and it'll be the end for whatever. Like there's something in his past that we don't know.
Yeah.
But something makes him not care. So then he takes the job. They go to Bangladesh. They give us the 411 on, you know, all this stuff. They need to. So it's basically Tyler and the sniper, right? And they're gonna do this.
Yeah, they have like a whole team basically. They have like a little base of operations. Him and this woman, Nikki, I think was her name in the movie.
Yeah,
right?
Nikki. Yeah.
And they have like a little squad. So he goes out with the squad. They have a sniper, and then I think there's like a man in a chair, you know, that's feeding him information, stuff like that.
Yeah. In his earpiece.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. It's just them two, I think, for now.
Yeah. And so Tyler basically meets with the people who are holding Ovi. They do the black bag over the head, drive him to the location.
Right.
He gets there, but I guess the sniper followed him, and so they knew beforehand they were going to have to take on about 20 people.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets there. They have this little standoff with the thugs. Typical stuff. Again, some stuff you've seen in every movie like this. Yeah. And so then once Tyler gets the proof of life, him and the sniper tactically take out these 20 people in a really cool,
very tactically,
really cool fight scene. So, what do you think of the scene where the choreography of the scene where there's all this fighting and stuff?
Amazing, really good, really solid stuff. As a big fan, I mean, probably one of the genres that I know probably the most about would be these types of movies, these types of action movies. Not necessarily the glossed up, like polished blockbuster ones, but like I've seen a lot of shit, like a lot of crap. Like a lot of Scott Adkins, Jean-Claude Van Damme, all of that stuff.
Oh,
so
man.
like this is kind of like my playground. This is like the pig pen that I like to roll around in. So really well executed stuff, I thought. With the sniper covering them and stuff, they build up the tension to it while they're having the standoff, and then he basically kills 20 people by himself, which is awesome. His last name is Rake, Tyler Rake, and he kills someone with a rake.
He kills someone with a rake.
From the cheese ball angle, I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
But again, nothing you haven't seen before. I think it's not as good as the John Wick movies, for example. I would say the just the like one-on-one choreography. There's some action scenes later on that just like blow you away, but just the kind of fist fighting stuff, really good. Not the best, but just above average for sure.
Yeah, there's more like this character uses the guns more. I mean, John Wick is definitely like it's a gun.
John Wick is just like a gun fu. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's gun fu. This is it's not totally on the gun fu level.
No, but it's not even. I don't even think it's as like punchy as like the Jason Bourne stuff. I just think it's kind of good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was good. I think those were well executed too. These scenes. So that was our first taste, right?
Just a little bit.
He takes out 20 people, and so then he's like, "Okay, Ovi, you're going with me. Get the fuck out of here." So he's gonna take Ovi to this extraction point, which is a boat. So he puts him in the back of a car. They change clothes. They're headed off to a boat. So one thing, just to go backwards a little bit. So there's a scene that we see with the rival drug lord, who is this guy, Amir Asif, I believe was his name. So Asif.
Okay, what his name is? I'll punch him in the throat.
So I actually thought that the actor wasn't bad, but this scene was like you just like I don't know if I could think of more stereotypical things about like Indian gangsters. So you have this fat, ugly Indian dude
with a really high-pitched voice,
literally throwing little kids off a roof.
I actually laughed out loud when he threw the first kid off the roof. I'm sorry.
I mean, to be honest, like the sound the kid made was like.
like
was
you just don't expect, like, you're going from one scene to another, and then immediately you got this like massive stereotype Indian guy just throwing kids off.
And he's wearing a fucking gold chain too.
Yeah. And his shirt's like kind of half open, so he's like really disgusting. Yeah,
and he's got a pot belly and his fucking hairy chest. Yeah, it's like
it's great.
It's like I can't imagine a more stereotypical depiction of a bad Indian person than that.
Yeah, you're correct.
But so the gist of this scene is like, oh, how bad, how evil, because you always have to like make the villain evil. How can you make them evil?
Yeah.
So he's evil because he, gets mad and tells his guy to throw kids off a roof.
Mm-hmm.
But then we meet this other character. I forget his name, but he's a younger. He's sort of adolescent, maybe 12, 14-ish. Got a scar on his face.
Yeah.
And he's like very quick-witted. He's, the guy asks Amir asks him like, oh, like what happened to my money? It's like, oh, well, the only guy who knew was the guy who threw off a roof.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're very clever, blah, blah, blah. And basically this young kid gets in with him because he's clever and lucky. So it's sort of presenting this moral hierarchy of the villain. He tells people to throw kids off a roof, but he has a streetwiseness. He recognizes other street people, I guess you could say. So that's like our villain. So like, so it just didn't play well for you, would you say?
Oh, well, no, I mean, it's fine. It works, again, it all works within the archetypes, and it all works within the kind of formula, the straight down the barrel formula of this movie. I guess I just I didn't care for the actor, I guess. Something about, and I think that kind of was the point. I think they were supposed to make him as like, he's young, he thinks he's pretty, I think. I couldn't quite tell, like he thinks he's like
hot shit.
I think he just thinks he's hot shit, and he's like untouchable. But he's not overly manly either. So I don't know. It just didn't work for me from that aspect. It kind of feels
like the guy from the tax collector, the lead from the tax collector.
A little. Maybe I have that problem. I have I have a complex with like.
It's like you're too pretty to be
tough guys. Yeah,
you're too pretty to be a tough guy.
Exactly. Pretty tough guys. That's what it is. Thank you. You've unlocked it for me. That's what it is.
Because
pretty tough guys don't like.
They feel similar. They feel similar in the way that they were depicted. Okay, so Tyler's taking him to the extraction point, and Amir gets word of this, that their site where they were holding Ovi was attacked. So he has a direct connection with this military colonel. He's like, dude, you got to shut the city down right now. And
right there, again, just if you're following the blueprint for this movie, when you see the colonel, you're like, he's going to be either a final boss or he's going to be like a mini boss before the final boss. Like, he's one of the guys that we're going to have a scene with. It's like you can map him out as you go along, which I thought was pretty interesting. It's just like, this guy's a boss fight. This guy's a boss fight. This guy's a boss fight.
Yeah, totally. So now that's another kind of problem that Tyler's going to have to face. So then, they get to the boat, but turns out the boat was a trap. Saju was there waiting for him, and he, does his thing. He's another ex-Special Forces guy, and he just takes everybody out, takes out the sniper, takes out the guys on the boat. Yeah,
which we didn't know. Like, we saw him again. We knew that he was supposed to be the caretaker for the kid, but we didn't know that he was like an actual certified badass. He's like wearing a mask or something, and then he takes off his mask, and it's like, oh shit, they're gonna fight. The two guys that are supposed to protect the kid are gonna fight now. Whoa.
Yeah. So when that happened, what do you think? What was like? Because it was kind of interesting that they made the two of them face off. Like, what was the plan there? What was your idea of what the plan was for why they would want to get them to the extraction point, but not have them just do the job, just finish the job?
Story, like movie plot wise, or like just movie mechanics wise?
Did that make sense? Did that make sense to you?
It made sense because there's one line, like a throwaway line, when the guy's talking to his family, and he's like, OV Senior doesn't intend to pay, or he doesn't have money to pay for this. I need to go get the kid. There's that line. So when he takes off the mask, it's implied that like, he's just going to take the kid literally. And then he's going to leave the guy. He's either going to kill him or just leave him high and dry. He doesn't really care. He just needs to get the kid back so that his family doesn't get fucking murdered.
Yeah, I didn't catch that line, but like in my head, I was like, the only reason why you would do that is for money. You don't want the money. You want to like have them do the hard work and then have your guy who's doing it for free do the rest of the job.
This is well, that's correct. That's what it is. Yeah, but there's just one line, and then later, the characters figure it out in case the viewer hasn't figured it out, but they do put that line in there in the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. So yeah. So at this point, that was kind of a spoilerish, but we'll get into more deep spoiler territory now. So if anyone, wants to
listen, if you want to see some fucking mind-blowing action scenes, watch this movie. Otherwise, you can click off.
Yeah. Because there's not because okay, from the jump, okay, Tyler's gonna be in trouble at the end.
Yeah.
At some point, we're gonna get to this bridge, and he's in trouble.
Yeah, and I would say that the plot to this movie is necessary in that it needs to be a movie, but it is very much just an excuse to get to these action sequences. Like the people behind these movies, in particular the director, Sam Hargrave, who's his first time movie, by the way, worked on a lot, like second unit, did a lot of action for, the Russos, Avengers, things like that. But clearly this guy's a stunt guy and he's, just like an action director, right? So this is just a big excuse to get a lot of money to go to India and just film a bunch of really, really cool action scenes. So don't worry about the plot too much.
Yeah. So after that, after the betrayal, basically there's this long action scene that happens. So there's like this. So Ovi and Tyler get into they basically jack a car and they're just trying to get away. Because the military took over the boat, so they couldn't. Even if they could have gotten past Saju, they couldn't pilot the boat.
They literally locked down the entire city.
Yeah, and they locked down the city. So now their plan is totally fucked. And so they're trying
except there's a guy also trying to kill them. Yeah.
Yeah. So now the police are after him. Saju's after him. And it's like, what the fuck are we gonna do? So he gets in, and then there's this really long single take action sequence where they're in a car, and it's like they're in a car, they then crash the car, they then start like fight. And isn't there also there's like a hallway fight scene, like they go into an apartment building and then the police are after him and Tyler has to kill a bunch of cops. He kills a dozen cops?
Probably yeah.
And then it ends with he gets into a fight with Saju. Tyler gets run over by a car. Then
Saju gets run over by a car.
Yeah, then Tyler hits Saju with a truck.
Yeah, and
then it ends with them crashing the truck, causing a massive explosion to as a diversion to get away. Yeah. So this take was this one thing was heavily talked about. I guess what were your thoughts on this? Like, do you think that it was doing it in a single take was good? Do you think that added to the feel of it, or do you think it was a little bit overdone?
I think we're underselling it. I think this is probably the only reason to watch this movie, in my opinion. It does deserve all of the because you said it's been talked about. It deserves all of the conversation because I think by the time I think it's 11 minutes. I think it's an 11-minute take, and it's the entire action sequence. And there's like 3 or 4 different types of action sequences within this action sequence. So I think it is a little overbearing. Like once you get about 3 minutes in, you're just like, oh, we're doing this now.
Yeah.
And that I thought now in my crazy head, because I heard about this sequence before I saw the movie, and I was like, what if they had the balls to set up the conflict for 20 minutes or whatever, get into this action sequence, and the rest of the movie is like Children of Men or something. It's all one take, and it's just these two characters on the streets, unbroken. There's no more cutting back and forth. Like I thought this was going to turn into something else, and it was going to be something really significant. But really, it's the contribution, I guess, overall to action movies is this one sequence. I do think it works. I think in the very beginning, it goes from we're doing reverse shot of these guys shooting at each other, and then Saju shooting back, and we turn around and they get into the car, and then they drive, and then the camera follows the car as if it was like a video game or something. And that's when I was like, oh, this works. Like I've never seen anything like that in an action movie. I don't think where it goes seamlessly from like on the ground combat to a car chase in the same movement. I don't think I've seen that. And it sustains. And so I thought that was really cool. But yeah, by the time you get halfway through it, you can tell like they're panning down into a logo really fast just to have that logo to like pan back up from, when they cut or whatever. But I think it works, man. I think it was really good.
Yeah, and like you said, it's really the reason to watch this film. It's a technically impressive thing that they did. And yeah, I mean, it goes from a car chase to then they're like doing this close quarter combat in this apartment building, and then it ends with like a knife fight and a car crash. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy. It's all over the place. And that's kind of really the apex of the film, and then it really kind of slows down a lot after that.
Boy. Yeah. No, it does. It does. And I totally get it. They say that what's the line? It's like the second half of the second act is just the desert of creativity, right?
Yeah.
You're sitting there and you're just like, fuck, how do I get these characters from here to here, Especially after ostensibly the movie has blown its load at this point. Like, you've seen this action sequence is insane. This action sequence is, tens of millions of dollars by itself. So, it's like, what do we do now? So what do they do?
Yeah, what do they do now? Well, we get some character development about characters we don't give a fuck about. It's a lot of what happens, unfortunately. And then we get an appearance from David Arbor. Yep. And that's kind of a cute scene.
I got it. I know a guy. I'm gonna call the guy. This guy owes me his life.
And of course, it's a trap. He's a traitor.
Yeah. Shocked.
Yeah. And so then we get what we expect. Tyler and Saju team up. And so they come up with this plan, and they're going to do another extraction with a like freaking helicopter on a bridge or something. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's where the climax happens. So there's this gigantic battle on the bridge. Tyler creates a diversion for Saju and Ovi. Mm-hmm. And so so Tyler has like a grenade launcher and some freaking
pretty cool.
And he blows up a couple of cop cars, and then takes on again dozen cops, maybe more, and a tank.
Probably more. Yeah, takes
on a tank too. Mm-hmm. Kills all of them. Saju and Ovi get onto the bridge, and of course the cops accost him, and then he's got to do his thing, start killing people.
Yeah, he gets his moment to shine, independently of Chris Hemsworth, because they were fighting each other, but now finally it's like the Saju movie for a bit. You do get the sense, because the movie does flip back and forth between the all Indian cast. Obviously all the locations are authentic, so it does. If at some point it feels like you're just watching an Indian film, and then it cuts back to like, no, we have Chris Hemsworth in this, So that was a little interesting. So yeah, we do get an action scene with Saju, and that to me feels like the most correct in the whole movie, and that everything is consistent, and he feels like he's in his element. We're in the element with him, and then because Chris Hemsworth feels like a little bit like an outsider in this movie, which he's supposed to be.
Yeah, because he's like the only
he's real. Straight up, he's the only white guy in the movie.
Yeah.
Other than Dave Harbour, who's in it for a few minutes. I think as a wink and a nod to like Stranger Things, Netflix, haha, might be.
Yeah, it's Netflix. They have their guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they keep going back to them.
Yeah.
And they know that. I think the other thing too is they know that people who watch Netflix stuff know who David Harbour is.
Yeah, like they're invested somehow.
Yeah, so they're like, oh my god, it's him. Mm-hmm. And they, then you're not going to see the backstabbing coming.
Oh.
Even though it's kind of a mile away, right?
You're so right. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get this guy that people like.
Meta psychology of casting. That's interesting.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, there's this massive fight on this bridge. And like you brought up earlier, final boss is this colonel.
Mm-hmm.
And he's out there sniping people, and he's descending the police on him, and so I believe he's the one he sniped Saju, right?
Yeah, which it was weird to me. So at this point, I was trying to follow the threads as much as I could. I got the sense that we do unlock his Chris Hemsworth's character, his his past. It's like he feels guilty because he abandoned his son while his son was going through some horrible shit and his son died, right? So it's like he feels. I thought they were going to redeem him though, because he Ovi calls him. He keeps telling him like, "Oh, you're brave, you're brave, you're brave." He's like, "No, I'm not. I'm a piece of shit. I'm a coward. I ran away or whatever." So I just thought, like typical stuff. So I was like, he's going to redeem himself by saving this kid. I thought that's what the whole point of the movie was. So I thought, but then I was like, no, because they're going to subvert us. They're going to kill him, but then Saju's going to succeed because he has a family. So maybe in helping Saju, they're going to redeem this character. They could have gone any which way about it. But no, Saju takes a bullet to the face. I thought that was shocking. Yeah. That was shocking to me. Not shocking from like the movie perspective of like, wow, I didn't see that coming. Just more like, why would they, like, what do you think is the point of having, spoilers, both of our guys die or not? But like, essentially they kill them both. So like, what do you think was the point of building all of this drama with their families and with their sons when they kill them both? Like, why did you think they did that?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things you got to do to make people care, and I find I again, this kind of comes up to me. The film, I forget what it was called, but it's like about the raid. The raid.
Oh, sure.
So the raid, it was a similar thing. The first 5 minutes is this scene with the dude and his wife who's pregnant, and it's just there to make you care about the characters. Mm-hmm. But in the end, it was like, dude, I don't give a fuck about this guy. I want to see this action. Okay, I want to see them go into this freaking apartment building and have to kill 120 people. Mm-hmm. And with Extraction, it's the same thing. It's like, do I really care about this guy's past? No, it's Chris Hemsworth. I want to see him freaking kill people. So I feel like this film is kind of morally ambiguous with what it's trying to say thematically, because they kill both of these people. Reading
too much into it, maybe. I was trying to. Because I just feel like they spent so much time setting this stuff up. Maybe it was the whole thing of like, we got to stretch this shit out, so we're going to put in more character stuff. Yeah. But I thought that they were doing it with a purpose.
I think they could have, but they did not.
Got it.
You could maybe think of something, but I just don't think there's anything really there.
The only thing that is worth, or I think intended to be thought about, is the actual ending itself, whether or not he survives or not, but that, even then, that's only there for the possibility of a sequel. I think, like, really, when it comes down to it, it's just like, okay,
I'm certain that they kind of do want to do a sequel, but I don't know. I felt like it didn't really fulfill the character stuff it was trying to do. It just didn't. It felt flat.
Correct. Yeah. So I guess the Saju getting shot in the face is more of a mechanic of, oh shit, this guy with the sniper is so good. No, what about our main guy? As opposed to, actually doing something with this character, because we don't even get in the resolution and in the epilogue of the movie, we don't even get to see his family. We don't even get to see, like, he has a fucking phone call with his son and he's like, I love you, Papa, and he's like crying about it. We don't even get to see that at the end.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
We don't give a shit about this guy. I thought that was weird.
Yeah, that is weird, because like, he's a really good part of the film. Like, I thought so
too. Yeah, he
really sells it. And I mean, he's acting across with Chris Hemsworth, and we kind of have a feeling for this guy, because they were fighting really hard, but then they come together, and this guy, there's this kind of good scene again at the second part of the second act where he got the fucking shit beat out of him, Saju. He looks like shit, and he's just going somewhere to patch himself up. Then he calls his kid and his wife, and at that point you can kind of tell he's like, I'm dying. I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna be able to do this thing, but I have to. I have to for them. Because that's the thing. I think both of the characters are invested in making sure Ovi lives for different reasons. So for Chris Hemsworth's character, he's like, I don't know, it's part of the death wish. It's part of the sort of heroic death. And for Saju, it's like, I got to protect my son, because if I fail, he's gonna get his life destroyed.
Yeah. I mean, and either way, Ovi exists only to redeem one of these characters, right? Or both. Yeah. Like, he doesn't really, again, like, just from us, I'm clearly reading way too much into this movie story, but I just thought it was interesting for them. I think they're just doing maybe enough to keep the average, popcorn eating Netflix viewer Stranger Things fan invested, only to then just kind of like, there's a twist, there's a bad guy. I guess they're not trying to do more with it.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, it would be nice if they were, but hey, look, just give us some nice action scenes and fill the character stuff with things that aren't super cringy. And but yeah, so that's basically the film. So what would you say that would you call this a success for Netflix?
Well, see, that's the thing about Netflix is they won't even tell you what success means to them.
Yeah.
We have no idea. I mean, they show they give their top 10 and, they say, this movie did like X million amounts of people watch this movie. But what does that mean? I don't know. I don't know if this was a success. I don't know if this is going to get people to sign up. I do think it's not disingenuous. That's not the right word, but it is a little bit of a bait and switch because what this movie is, this movie does not exist if they didn't do it in India. This movie does not exist. There's no way they could have made this movie in America. There's no way they could have at this level of polish with probably the budget that they had. I feel like you can go to India and you can get really, really good Indian crews that know what the hell they're doing, and you can make a movie like this a lot cheaper than you can make it anywhere else, right? Yeah. So I feel like the reason for this movie to exist is go to India, go to Mexico, just pick a country that has a film industry that is really good, but is not going to charge you. You're not going to have to pay as much up front, So it is a little weird because it feels like an Indian film and then they just fucking crane Chris Hemsworth into it. Yeah. So I don't know, when you're asking if it's a success for who, how, I don't know. Is Chris Hemsworth enough by himself to get people to sign up to Netflix? I don't know. I think this in combination with the other movies we talked about, like The Old Guard and some of the other stuff that's come out, possibly. But this movie by itself, I don't even think it would have played that well in multiplexes, honestly. I think it would have done okay, but I don't think it would be, as big as like a John Wick or something.
Yeah, I think it would have done okay, but there's just something about the Netflix original films.
Yes.
There's something about them that's always just very average. They never rise above the averageness.
I think that might be the model, not the business model, but I think in terms of the actual content itself, this might be the model. I think it's as run-of-the-mill as you could possibly make something and then just polish it with a lot of money. Yeah. I think that's what the model is because this feels like a TV movie, except the action sequences are outstanding. But ultimately story-wise, it is a TV movie. It feels like, this is in the right place. That's why this is not a Jason Bourne or a John Wick where you go to the theater and you're invested in these characters at all. Yeah,
half of this film was it's like Man on Fire, but without a character we're really invested in, but with more action.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. A guy we know, foreign country, problems in the country. He's got to basically blow the country up to get the kid back, but he has to sacrifice himself because he has these moral failings in order to save this kid. And but saving the kid, he saves himself.
There's value to that. That is a cliche. That entire story is a cliche. There's value to just having that and then building, some cool shit to look at on top of it, which I think was probably the point of this movie. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was fine. I think it was good. I just don't know if it's, enough. From a marketing point, I don't know because it is 100%. It's like half the movie is in Hindi, so I don't know if it's because they didn't advertise it that way either. It's it's the Chris Hemsworth show, so I don't know if that's successful enough to sign up people, but I think it did okay.
Yeah, I mean it was when they released those numbers, it was in their top 10. I think it was maybe number. It was top 5. I think the number was 90 million people had watched. You
know what I think it might be too. It might be they had planned to have that single take action sequence to be talked about, so that by the time this movie came out, the press had done its work and they were like, "This movie, Chris Hemsworth movie, blah, 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 Netflix, blah, 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 really cool action sequence. They're doing stuff. They're changing the industry. You got to watch it." I think that might be part of it too. They wanted to have a gimmick, more or less.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it kind of worked. So what would you say give this for a rating?
Well,
for Extraction.
6.
Yeah.
I give it a 6. Yeah, and not because again, it is good. I don't think 6 is a bad score. I just think it does. It's a 6 only because of the action sequences. Otherwise, it's not worth watching at all. It's not worth your 2 hours. Honestly, it is not. Everything is great about it. Again, everyone we talked about, the actors, you know, Saju, everybody who is in this movie is fucking awesome, and everybody's working at their, you know, at their heights. But there's no point really to it.
The guy who plays Saju's his name is Randeep Hooda. He's actually been in a lot of interesting Bollywood stuff, and he's kind of, I was watching some interviews with him. He's a really interesting guy. Like he's a kind of method actor.
Cool.
Yeah, and so he really like goes into a role.
And you gotta know that there's a lot of Indian actors like that in this movie that like over there are huge movie stars. So this does work both ways. It's just from our perspective, you know, from like just living like at least here, you know, I'm like close to Hollywood. I don't really. I think they're just banking on Chris Hemsworth, and they're just banking on that action sequence to get people to keep their Netflix subscription. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, rating wise, I think you're right on. I gave it a 6. There's just something like outside of the action scenes, there's just nothing there that really keeps me.
Like when we were going over the story, we skipped like 40 minutes of this movie's plot.
Yeah, which is worthless. Like it's just filler.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
All you need to know is there's that chase scene. There's the stuff leading up to the chase scene when he like has to get Ovi out, and then there's the final battle on the bridge. Everything else is like worthless. I really think this movie, if they probably didn't have the money for it, but if this movie had done the thing where like it all of a sudden switches to a Children of Men, and we're following these guys in an uninterrupted sequence, like tracking shot for the rest of the fucking movie. That would have been like life changing, right? And the movie could have been an hour and 25 minutes or something, and it could have been fine. Oh yeah.
But because it positions itself as like a 2-hour super serious movie, I just didn't really, it didn't really hit those heights.
Yeah, I feel like if they cut off 30 minutes, this movie could have been vastly improved.
I think so too. Yeah.
You know, just that sequence we were talking about, like after the car chase, that they just cut, or you know, just basically only had that scene with what's his name, Saju, when he was patching himself up. Just have that, and then have them meet up somehow, and just be like, they figure it out.
Cut out Dave Harbour. Like, I know you want to have him in there. Yeah. I know you'd I understand that, because you just have Chris Hemsworth, and you want to have there's an expectation when you come to these movies, especially these like big, like fucking G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra, or not Rise of Cobra, Retaliation, right? Like, you want that moment when you know he's like, I got a friend, and they go to Bruce Willis's house. Like, I understand that psychology, but if you just cut out Dave Harbour out of this movie and you just put more Saju in it, and you put more of the kind of counterplay, I think it could have been a much better movie.
Yeah, for sure. And like again, like I don't know if you've seen The Raid or not.
No, it's on my list. I haven't seen it yet.
Because I just saw them recently too. I saw them this year. I saw the 1 and 2. The Raid 1 is like amazing. Like I said, it does this thing where there's a setup where they try to force you to care about the character. Like, oh, see, he has a family. Like, I don't give a fuck about that. But but the action, man, that stuff delivers, and it does not stop. It's nonstop. It's like, we know why you're here, to see some people get killed, to see some violence, to see some fighting.
That was the blueprint for the first John Wick as well. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm sorry that your wife and your dog died, but like, just let me watch, you know, John Wick do his thing.
Yeah. The smart thing about John Wick is, like, I think the killing the dog was, like, because that's so brilliant, because you're like, people, like, they killed the dog. Kill them all! Kill them all!
Funny. It's so funny how that works. Yeah, like, we don't give a shit about this guy's pregnant wife, but we care a lot more about a dog.
I'm telling you, dude, like, if it was just a pregnant wife, people would be like, this guy's kind of, like, violent. But like the fucking dog, man, once they kill the dog, like, nah, man, rip up the guns out of the stuff, you know, that's like in the cement box in the ground. Yeah, pick up the guns, kill every one of these motherfuckers, kill them all.
Yeah, that's
can't
funny.
Kill a dog. Well, it's a puppy too, right? Like, it's even worse. So yeah, there's no puppy killed moment in this movie. Like, there's nothing that like invests us so much that we're like, oh my god.
And they were not even shooting for that. No, the story is necessary to get to the action sequence.
Yeah, totally. So in our hierarchy, this is definitely below like John Wick, and definitely below like those other kind of films.
For sure, for sure.
time.
This is somewhere above like Angel Has Fallen, I would say. It's hovering in that kind of area. Those Lionsgate movies that come out in theaters and you're like, what the fuck? This is a movie? Okay. This is somewhere in there, I think.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, I think that's our review of the movie Extraction. Cool. Yeah, so thanks a lot, everybody, for stopping by, and see you again next week.
Absolutely. And if you made it to the end, you're a hero. Cheers.
Yes, you are a hero. We love you.